Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jnanapada Parahamsa Prajakacharya Vimad, Divine Grace, Peace and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. This is non-founder Jaya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jnanapada Parahamsa Prajakacharya Vimad, Bhakti Stampa Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 13, titled King Indra Afflicted by Sinful Reactions. Text number 10. Shri Shukavacha Evam Sanchodito Vidre Marutvan Anagritu Brahmahatai Te Tasmi Asat Shakami Shri Shukavacha Evam Sanchodito Vidre Marutvan Anagritu Brahmahatai Te Tasmi Asaf da Firshaka Pi Sri Shukavacha Evam Sanchodito Vidre Nagari Brahmahatai Te Tavi Asaf da Firshaka Sri Shukavacha. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Evam, thus, Sanchalurita, being encouraged, Vidre, by the Brahmanas, Marutvan, Indra, Ahana, killed, Ripum, his enemy, Pratasra, Brahma Attaya, the sinful reaction for killing Brahmana, Kartik was killed. Tasvi, when he and Pratasra, Asavana, approached Vrishakali, Indra, who is also a Vrishakali, translated and purport by his divine grace, peace and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, encouraged by the words of the sages, Indra killed Pratasra, and when he was killed, sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana and Tata, certainly took shelter of Indra. Purport. After killing Pratasra, Indra could not surpass the Brahmana Attaya, the sinful reactions to killing a Brahmana. Formerly, he had killed one Brahmana, Vishvaru, out of circumstantial anger. And this time, following the advice of the sages, he killed another Brahmana purposely. Therefore, the central reaction was greater than before. Indra could not be relieved from the reaction simply by performing sacrifices for atonement. He had to undergo a severe series of sinful reactions, and when he was freed by such suffering, the Brahmanas allowed to perform the horse sacrifice. The planned execution of sinful deeds on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord or undergoing prayatha atonement cannot give one relief to anyone, even to Indra or Nahusha. Nahusha was officiating for Indra, while Indra, absent from heaven, was going here and there to gain release from his sinful activities. Is the mic up working? Can people hear me?
We can hear you, but not real well. The lapel mic needs to be set
Closer.
up.
And it's the lapel mic is here. Oh, is this?
It might be better. Are you certain it's plugged into the PC?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, it's good now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, we get into this. Yeah, like I instruction was in past life for your vein. Jai Shri Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Visari Gaura, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are continuing in, let me set this up. So we are continuing in our discussion of the pastime of Indra killing Vritasura and thus becoming afflicted by the sinful reaction of Brahmahata, uh, that for killing a Brahmana. And Srila Prabhupada, in this report, continues, as he did in the other report, to discuss this idea of the what we know as the seven efforts and the chanting of the holy name. That is to commit sinful activity on the strength of chanting holy name, or the mentality of saying, I'll just go on with my sinful behaviors and just by chanting activity, I will not have to deal with the reactions of it. So we should think about this concept of sin that is used in modern materialistic society. The idea of sin is almost completely absent. That nobody, or not nobody, but very few people uh, would give as a justification for not doing something, that it is a sinful activity. And if you try to point out that uh, any of their nonsense activities uh, will garner sinful reactions, generally the response for many people is like, "Oh, well, that's just your religion, and I don't have to be worried about that stuff because I don't believe in such things anyway." So there's really no concept of this idea that certain things, even if possible to be done, uh, and even if they don't necessarily uh, tread on what the modern world considers people's rights, that still these things should not be done because they are sinful activities. And sin in the Vedic worldview. So we should think about what exactly this means. Uh, because coming out from this materialistic idea or non-idea of sin, we might come to the conclusion that mm, sin is just being mean to people, or generally whatever is not accepted in modern society is sinful behavior, and whatever is accepted in modern society is okay behavior. But this is not the standard that Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas gave us for what is considered sinful activity. Sin, or sinful activity, means vikarma, which is action that is against the directions of the Vedas. And so the idea is intimately tied with the idea of dharma. Dharma, or a dharmic lifestyle, is one that is in line with the direction of the Vedas for the particular body, life circumstance, etc., that one finds oneself in, having been put into a situation by one's previous good and bad karma. So if we want to actually understand what sin is, we should take advantage of the Vedic literatures, which are explained by all the acharyas, and most recently and most thoroughly in the Western world, especially by Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti itself is actually said to be above Dharma, which is true. And there are various discussions about the relative position of Bhakti and Dharma. For example, in the talks between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai, when it is suggested that the perfection of life is to follow one's swadharma, one's dharma in the realm of varna and ashram, all such things. Lord Chaitanya's response is that these things are external, and he induces Ramananda Roy to go deeper into bhakti rasa. So this question may arise as devotees, as members of ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement. Should we be concerned about such things as dharma, that is to say, the Vedic injunctions, sinful activity, and all of these things? And at first glance, somebody might have the apprehension that we don't have to be concerned about these things because the power of Vishnu Bhakti, of the processes of devotional service, are liberating from sinful reactions. For example, earlier in the sixth canto, so not that long ago, we read about the pastimes of Ajami, where the Vishnu Dutas, during their debate with the Yamadutas, said Etanai Mahia Goshasya, Kirtam Saya Nagari Shritam, Ga, Narai Anaye Tin Jagat Chatur Akshara. Even previously, while looking at it other times, this Ajahn would call his son, saying, My dear Narada, please come here. Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered four syllables, Narayana, na. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana this way, sufficiently atone for the simple reactions of millions of lives. We also hear from even our acharyas about the glories of the holy name and being able to eradicate the sinful reactions that we might incur. So, Bhagavatam Thakur, Harinam Chitamani, says, Yadi Kati Pramade Gata Kona Papa, Bhakti Tapa Kona Isai, Pranchitya Tapa, Say Papa Shanika, Nahi Papa Avastiti, Nama Rase, Vaya Say, Yaya Na Reha Dorigatu. If out of foolishness, the devotee engages in some sin, he does not need to perform the austerities of prayastika, atonement. Such momentary sin cannot remain immersed in non-rasa. He will not meet any misfortune. So it seems that there are indications that a devotee does not have to be worried about these things due to the power of chanting the holy name and engaging in the service of Krishna. Krishna himself says, give up all varieties of dharma and just surrender unto me, what can be considered one of the essential verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes the argument is made that out of compassion, we should not be so concerned about understanding or explaining what is sinful or non-sinful or dharmic activity, that people are coming from such a fallen condition, that all we need to do is to emphasize some parts of the Bhagavatam and things that talk about the chanting of the holy name or other such things, and that's to be compassionate in this way. It is better than to have all this talk of sin and pious activity and things like that. Because sometimes you can see in Srila Prabhupada's own behavior that he might not have emphasized certain things in when he was setting up the society so much. In that sometimes he did not enforce, especially in the very early days of the movement, all of the specific rules found in the Smritis and the various Puranas and things like that. So it might seem by these arguments that devotees do not have to worry about things like dharma and sin. However, when one looks at these examples and at other examples, one sees that the situation is not so clear-cut, and that actually devotees should be worried about following the injunctions of the Vedas. Even in the case of Ajami, that in the purport, the verse that I quoted earlier, Prabhupada writes, but although Ajami engaged in sinful activities, he never chanted the name of Narayana to counteract. He simply chanted the name Narayana to call his son. Therefore, his chanting was effective. So we're reading there And, in various other places, Ajahn chanting was Nambas, uh, meaning that although it was not a platform of pure love, it wasn't an offensive sort of chanting. He didn't have the idea of, well, I don't have to worry about these Vedic injunctions or things like that, but I'll just chant the holy name and uh, by that power, I will be uh, free and clear. Srila Prabhupada many times got onto the case of the Christian practice of confession for having this very mentality, in the sense that uh, one can that it encourages one to and Prabhupada to be a sin Monday through Saturday, and then on Sunday before Mass, one just goes to the confessional booth, says everything one did, and is forgiven, and then gets right back to sinning right after Mass. Prabhupada did not like this form uh, of prayer of atonement because, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Harinam Chintamani, that if one accidentally or just one becomes overwhelmed or is bewildered and in that way commits a sinful activity, one need not, have words that in the verse I quoted earlier, the translation says out of foolishness or pramade, which means madness. And one doesn't need to actually undergo any sort of atonement because the holy name itself will um, purify one of such sinful reactions and ultimately sinful mentality. But a few verses later, Bhagavatam further explains, Kintu nama balayagi papakari mant prayashantanani tat vanayani dargati bhatanyama pilayo tat say amanada aitri na ayam. If someone engages in sin on the strength of chanting holy name, he cannot perform any atonement or becomes unfortunate, even after experiencing many hellish punishments by God. He cannot be delivered from this offense. And uh, it is explained in the same chapter, which is the ninth chapter of Harinam Chintamani, that to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name means to, with a steady intelligence, say, I'm going to commit these sins, and just chant Hare Krishna. If one sought uh, live in a sinful way or make a lifestyle out of sinful activities, uh, one shouldn't have a mentality of all that would be okay because, and I won't get reactions for it because I am chanting. Even the verse that I mentioned earlier, where Krishna tells Arjuna to give up all varieties of Dharma and just surrender onto him. That is, of course, perfect instruction and comes directly from the Supreme Person of Godhead. But it's not that I give up all varieties of Dharma and then do whatever I want. If one gives up everything else, then one can give up Dharma. Not that I engage in my sinful activities or in sense gratification, and then say, uh, oh, I'm giving up Dharma and following Krishna. This is not the standard that Krishna is talking about in the chapter titled The Perfection of Renunciation. Uh, and actually, even on this point of compassion, saying that uh, one should not point these things out because we want to be compassionate to all of these sorts of people. But such compassion is actually not very compassionate at all. It is like if a doctor uh, says, it's not very compassionate to cut people, therefore I won't perform surgery. Such compassion is simply useless because it is not meant for the welfare of the person. The actual welfare in that uh, situation would be, to cut the patient for their greater benefits later on. Likewise, um, it is more difficult for one enamored in sinful activities to come to the platform of bhakti, to the standards set by the acharyas. So we should point out in an intelligent way, but still point out the proper standards to follow, which is the Vedic, which is active compassion on the conditioned souls, and to people who are engaged in these activities that will make it more difficult for them to come to Krishna, and then even on a material platform will cause them to take lower births if they do not perfect their lives in this body. And in the example of Srila Prabhupada's own behavior, especially at the very beginning of the movement, one should understand the situation that Prabhupada found himself. The technical term that I've heard used is Dharma Samkata, which is kind of a dilemma in terms of Dharma, in the sense that um, if he had introduced the full Dharmic system, probably not a single person in the West at that time would be able to follow it. I mean, West or East, Kali Yuga, it's very difficult to people who are not accustomed to that culture. So he made some adjustments at the beginning. But standard, which Prabhupada made it clear, um, taken from the acharyas, that we should come to the standard of following all these things, that we are not simply above the injunctions of the Vedas because we are chanting Hare Krishna. One example of an instruction in this regard is a verse from the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada quoted. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Panchrakshaka Vidim Vinam. Aikanviki Hare Bhaktir Utu Payataya Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures, like the Upanishads, Puranas, and the Narayana Pancharaksha, is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. So it was very clear, at least by the version of Rupa Goswami, that devotional service should follow the Vedic literatures and the instructions in there. And that and then Prabhupada actually did want us to come to this thing. One often quoted part of a report out of the Agni is that Prabhupada writes, but these rascals, the rascals he is referring to as people who are criticizing him for the standards that he's keeping in the West, should consider that one cannot suddenly change a community's social customs. Which implies, of course, that he did want to change the community's social customs into something more Vedic, just that it could not be done all at once. And actually, it's clear to those who study Bhagavatam that he wanted us to follow Varnashram Dharma, which means a society that is run according to the instructions of the Vedas. That is the definition for Varnashram that Prabhupada gives in the Ishupanishad. And actually, this Varnashram system, even though it is in some sense external, it is actually the system makes worshiping Vishnu easy. It is actually totally meant for worshiping Vishnu, as Prabhupada writes in the 10th canto, in the 5th chapter. He says that the entire system of Varnashram is actually meant for Vishnu Arada, the worship of Lord Vishnu, and explains that one can make that actually not just him, but the Bhagavatam explains that one can make spiritual advancements by performing so-called or seemingly material duties if one is within this Vedic system. It said in the 3rd canto, Nivritti Dharma Nirata Nirmana Nira Pamkrita Swadharma Pati Satvena Harijudena Chaitasa, by executing one's occupational duties, acting with attachment, and without any sense of proprietorship or false ego, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of purification of conscience, and by thus executing so-called material duties, they can easily enter into the kingdom of God. So, while we are not until we are at the stage of pure bhakti, it is very important to follow the even seemingly material injunctions of the Vedas and consider what actually is a sin and not sin, according to that version. Not that we accept the version of modern society that whatever one wishes to do within the limits of the law, one should be encouraged or permitted to do or celebrated for. And one example or application of this principle that all who follow in the disciplic succession from Prabhupada and the Acharyas. One example of this is that the time of initiation, we all take vows to follow the 4 regulative principles, which are not in and of themselves spiritual principles. They are material, the basic points of Dharma, to not engage in sinful activity. And actually, Srila Prabhupada gave, or he received lots of criticism for these vows, for making his disciples follow these vows. He was told many times that if you want to actually have followers, one should then you should get rid of these vows, especially one of them, uh, which is sometimes known to be known as the fourth reg, which is, of course, no illicit sex, which was not very popular uh, either in the 70s during the hippie free love movement or even today. But Prabhupada um, saw that even on a material platform, this helps one, both individually by uh, engaging in the practice of Dharma, it makes Krishna consciousness easier. And even society, it will make the standard in society so much better in multiple ways. One could give a whole class on this topic alone, uh, multiple classes even. But even just the reduction in the amount of Varna Samhara, or children born out of uh, lust rather than dharma, uh, which causes the implications of such a population, as Prabhupada describes, various places. One that comes to mind is Bhagavad Gita, verse 139, I think, or maybe 239, where Arjuna is bringing up these points. So, all in all, it is we should understand first what sinful activity is. That is, activities that are against the Vedic injunctions. And we should try to, even as devotees, we should understand we are not above these rules and regulations, but should try to, as much as possible, understand them and apply them in our own lives. And in this way, make it uh, easier for us to go back to because the process can at times be difficult. So, might as well make it easy instead of making it hard for yourself and for others. So I'll end here. We have a bit of time left for comments, questions. Dina,
I will. Okay, I'm gonna try to get all my thoughts together here. Wonderful class. Is a huge topic that you've covered. And I'm just wanting to yeah, it's a lot to sift through in terms of how I think you mentioned at one point I was walking between the buildings, basically preaching according to time, place, and circumstance, and then also, as the movement grows, trying to adopt Varnashram Dharma more. So I'm just wondering, let's take, for example, since he brought up this topic, women, for example, that, like Prabhupada, if it was just following the Vedic Dharma, then, we wouldn't be doing managing or book distribution or this, that, or the other. But if we were following the Vedic system, then I should have a palanquin and not be seen basically whenever I go outside. So yeah, I'm just wondering, it seems like a tricky thing to be able to preach and engage people as Kali Yuga progresses, at the same time trying to implement this. I'm just wondering if you can speak more on this. I mean, I'm just choosing a specific example, but you're welcome to just speak generally about how one gets the intelligence to be able to balance all of this.
yeah. So on question, from what I've gathered, the question is basically when to push forward into the Vedic society, Varnashrama society, or Pava society, when to preach according to time, place, and circumstance and calling. One ultimately gets intelligence by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, trying to imbibe his mood and the mood of the previous acharyas, And ultimately, today, because we obviously don't have Varnashram Dharma established practically anywhere, much less universally, that there'll be some people engaged uh, in, one could say, city preaching or uh, the activities that one mm, are dealing with people who can't necessarily jump to the higher standard. And then there are others who are interested or engaged in what is referred to sometimes as Prabhupada's second half, actually establishing the Vedic principles. But in any case, the even if one is applying according to time, place, and circumstance, one shouldn't go below the level that Prabhupada gave. In one sense, like one shouldn't say, oh, well, Prabhupada was preaching in the 70s, and people are even more degraded now than they were then, so therefore we can't relax the standards. Because Prabhupada, as I spoke about last week, is not some conditioned soul who was just writing from its own mind or experience. He wanted his books to be the law books for the next 10,000 years. So, like you said, it's a big topic. But generally, there are, I guess, the short version of the answer is that those who are out and about in the behind enemy lines, so to speak, to take a wartime analogy, uh, shouldn't just stick to the standards as Prabhupada gave them. And those who are interested in the home front on pushing forward the Von Ashram system should try to understand all these things and introduce them more and more. So hopefully that somewhat answers your question. One, like we've been saying, one could have whole lectures on these topics and still not get all of the uh, subtleties there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could just like keep going because each point that you bring up is like, and of course, anybody could come up with a bunch of examples. But what about this case? And what about that case?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really appreciate you bringing it up and talking about it. It's very important. Thank you.
Ik weer Rajendra.
Yeah, it seems like Tarka's hand was up before ours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
So
distracted
Tarka,
for a moment, so I just
yeah,
saw
Tarka
that.
Prabhu. It seems, yeah, Prabhu, you want to go ahead?
Hare Krishna.
Hi,
Yeah, with regarding acquiring the necessary discretion to make judgments about strict adherence to various principles or making adjustments on the basis of time, place, and circumstance. The acquiring that skill is generally um, a matter of working under the direction of the spiritual master. He will instill within the disciple a sense of what is to be done under a certain set of circumstances. What are the priorities? Um, and in this connection, my own practical experience is that um, throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, he gives lots and lots of instructions. He repeats the instructions of previous acharyas and instructions from Shastra. Um, but if you have occasion to hear Srila Prabhupada's conversations with his disciples, morning walks, room conversations, sometimes even lectures, but particularly less formal settings, room conversations and morning walks, other such situations, you get an opportunity to see how Srila Prabhupada would practically apply the principles outlined in his books. You would see instances of him applying them practically to real life situations, everyday situations. And you don't necessarily get that from the books. So um, in that way, the recordings are not redundant. They actually uh, provide an opportunity to see an aspect of the philosophy that you may not get from the books. So it's quite valuable that way. At least that's my experience. There's a great many recordings. I don't recall how many altogether. It's many, many hundreds. And anyway, there was a point in my life when I used to listen to them very intently. I would replay the same tape 4 to 6 times before moving on to another one, and it was transformative, changed my life in extraordinary ways. It was really a wonderful and remarkable experience, very uplifting and enlightening, of course. But anyway, that's one of my recommendations to hear those recordings. From that, you can get a better sense of how better to apply the principles that Srila Prabhupada speaks so much about. I want to thank you for a very nice class. These are important issues to understand, and I have seen over the years a tendency sometimes to relax certain standards that Srila Prabhupada established, but unnecessarily on on the plea of expediency or compassion or simply because a certain um, principle or behavior is deemed to be impractical or too much trouble, it is abandoned with various rationale. Um, but if you, it, in my opinion, at least, upon examining some of those instances more closely, I see that often the case is that um, that sort of relaxing of the standards was unnecessary, and in the long term, it serves to um, undermine the integrity of the movement that Srila Prabhupada established. It weakens our potency. Adhering strictly to these various principles, and when I say principles, I'm not talking simply about the four regs, but there are all kinds of principles of behavior. You mentioned the principles of Varna and Ashram, for example. So there's many different kinds of principles. And generally, we want to try to adhere to these as far as possible. Sometimes it's not possible. And so then we do the best that we can under the circumstances. But I fear that in many cases, some of these principles are abandoned without a serious necessity, but simply because it's challenging. Um, and practically, what I have seen over the course of um, many decades is that principles that were established by Srila Prabhupada standards have been lost in many cases. Very valuable aspects of the culture of Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada established for our benefit have been lost, and the movement is quite different than it was under Srila Prabhupada's personal direction. It's changed significantly, and I think in many cases not for the better. I think we've lost some important and valuable aspects. Um, anyway, one other thing that I wanted to mention. Yesterday we had some discussion about uh, preaching about the chanting of the holy names and presenting the holy names in such a way that the benefits of um, uh, mundane benefits sometimes used as a way to attract others to chanting the holy names, but that it may be offensive to do so. Yashadev pointed out that His Holiness Devamrita Swami said that preaching um, in such a way about the uh, um, mitigation of material miseries, for example, to do that alone without presenting um, the um, the proper and complete understanding of the purpose and proper intent for chanting the holy names is offensive. I what I mentioned that the previous acharyas often, very often, used the idea of mitigating or eliminating material miseries, but as a result of chanting, that is very commonly found in the words of previous acharyas. Even Krishna himself does this. But I would agree with Yasudev's um, idea that this is not to be done alone by itself. In all the instances in which I have seen that the acharyas are doing this, it's always in the context of greater um, instruction on the proper regard of the holy names. So they're not just trying to sell the holy names on the basis of material benefits, but they give the complete picture, and I think that's important. We don't want to commit offense, and I don't want to. I want to make sure that I'm clear if I comment on such things that I'm not creating some misunderstanding. Anyway, thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Bible, there was a follow-up question for you in the chats, where Yashadev asked if you could give an example of what's been lost as far as principles and things from the from when we were in the presence of Srila Prabhupada till now.
In the time that we have left, it's 8 o'clock. Um, off the top of my head, hard to think of an example immediately. I know it's been a great concern for me over the years watching how things have changed, but some of those changes I am reluctant to discuss, to be honest, because at least right now, in um, because it, it would, I'm afraid it would raise a firestorm of controversy. Some of these things are quite controversial, and people have very strong opinions about them one way or another. And we don't have time to get into a major debate about these things. Um, but I'll give it some thought. I'll come up with some examples. Um, some standards of cleanliness, for example, have been um, significantly reduced. Um, Here at Gita Nagari, for example, sometimes I have heard it said that, well, we are a farm, and conditions are different here. It's muddy at times. There's dirt everywhere. Um, Trying to keep this or that clean is just not practical. Um, or why remove our shoes before going into this or that building? It's just not practical. Srila Prabhupada, I'm pretty sure would not have agreed with that, and practically, um, what is the difference between Gita Nagari and say a city temple in a case like that? The city streets are filthy. Um, you could even say that Gita Nagari's uh, Gita Nagari is cleaner than the cities, where the dogs are passing stool everywhere on the sidewalks and the streets. Um, but how much trouble is it really to remove one's shoes or to keep the floor clean? Um, under Srila Prabhupada's direction, cleaning was the first order of business every day, and every floor in every building was washed um, by individuals who were instructed by Srila Prabhupada that you get down on your hands and knees with a cloth, which you moisten in a bucket of water, and he showed us a particular method of wiping the floor, in which you push the dirt forward ahead of the cloth and then pick it up. Not that you just wipe back and forth, but you do it in such a way that you pick up all of the dirt. He had very specific instructions for how the cleaning is to be done. Um, but we don't always see that every floor gets cleaned on a daily basis. It was something that Srila Prabhupada was very strict about. And there are reasons for these things that may not be apparent to everyone. If you dig deeply into the Shastra, you begin to understand more and more about the importance of these things. Cleanliness is hugely important. Um, Srila Prabhupada would say to us, I heard directly from his lotus lips that if you are unclean, God is a million miles away. There's no hope of approaching Krishna if you can't at least come to a certain standard of cleanliness. Um, he taught us all different standards of cleanliness in different situations, and much of that has been lost. There's lots of other things which Srila Prabhupada thought were important, but we have minimized the importance of them. Um, anyway, that's probably not a great example, but it's one example that just came to mind. Um, oh my gosh, I've hugged all the time. I think Mother Virgil wanted to say something, so I will bow out. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Rajalila, you took your virtual hand down, but I still have a comment.
Yeah, I did because I thought we're getting ready to see the lordships. But since I got this time, then yeah, I really, Carla, the thing is that your way of thinking is you're so scientific, and so I'm able to kind of understand that you deal with the facts. These are facts, and you scriptural facts, and I really, really appreciate that. I was appreciating something you said about Ajamil and how he wasn't chanting and he wasn't chanting thinking, oh, I'm just going to chant the holy names and that's going to, free me. He was calling his son, right?
Yeah.
And this this I was thinking about this verse that I had read some time ago in the Padma Purana, where it says that yeah, the holy name, it does have spiritual potency to free us from sinful reactions. However, as you're sharing in terms of our intention, it's something to be very thoughtful and careful that we're not chanting with the intention that because I'm chanting, I'm going to be free from my sinful reaction. So I got that very clear. That's one of my takeaway from your class. I did have a question.
Of course.
Yeah, so we know that the one of the core principles of sinful activities is Vaishnava Parad, and we also know that one and the core concept that the greatest sin is not adhering to devotional principles, right? To a person not engaging in devotional service to the Lord. So how do we understand this in terms of Dina's question when people are coming and like you said, we're all, we cannot actually avoid sinful activities, even basic things. There are basic sinful activities. I believe there's 5 basic sinful activities that we just can't avoid. So how do we understand this in terms of one, Vaishnava Parad, which means, yeah, we see everyone as spirit soul and, we understand that people will commit sinful activities. How do we do this in terms of giving the facts and at the same time trying to help people to become more, I guess, I don't know, more appreciative of the process? Maybe that's as best as I could put this question.
Yeah, so I think I've understood your question. And basically, we do our best to explain. So, yeah, there are certain sinful activities. I heard one time explained, I think it was in a lecture by my Guru Maharaj, who said, do you think the grass likes you stepping on its head? When you're walking on grass and things. But those sorts of things that are unavoidable are that doesn't fall into the category of committing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name because uh a lot of as we were saying that uh mm, that that category of offense is if one is consciously uh committing sins and then with the attention like you pointed out. So yeah, we understand that there are some sinful activities that are unavoidable in this world. Um, Traditionally, people would perform yagyas to do that. We of course have to use some kirtan yagya for all sorts of unavoidable offenses or unavoidable sins. As far as actually, preaching and bringing things, we just have to explain. Right. So the process of Krishna consciousness is scientific. You know, Prabhupada very rarely, if at all, referred to our process as a religion. So it's not like, oh, we just believe this and and you believe that, and then we'll fight or have crusades or inquisitions or whatever. It's a scientific process. So it's referred to as a science, philosophy, and culture. So we explain, like, so we're not like, the Westboro Baptist Church or somebody where we just yell at people that, every second person is going to go to hell. Uh, so, we explain the principles behind, uh, the Vedic injunctions, and the principle even of accepting the Vedas, overall. Um, and yeah, so preachers especially should be very well versed in how to explain all of these things to people who might or might not accept at the moment even the authority of the Vedas. So he should explain, why you should accept the Vedic literatures overall, why these principles are there, etc. All of these things. So it's a process of education, not of just kicking people on the face. Uh, although Prabhupada did say you can kick scientists on the face. Uh,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I really appreciate, just that, to understand that when you speak, it's not that you're being judgmental, it's that you're stating facts. And at a point, that's just, we all need to, yeah, accept that this is a fact in the scripture. Now, whether or not you're personally being offensive or not, that's something you got to deal with the Lord.
yeah, exactly. And of course, a lot of these is like Mariada, so boundaries.
Mm,
Understanding one's own is very important. So, like for myself, since I'm a very, very neophyte devotee, I just stick to general principles. Even if I saw somebody, especially somebody who's very senior, maybe not doing something that uh, that I wouldn't say would fall under the principles, I wouldn't point it out because that's not my place. Like that person has god brothers, has other senior devotees that can ideally in private talk to them about it. So that's also a uh, protection against Vaishnav aparad, is understanding Vaishnav etiquette, like not correcting seniors directly, or I mean ideally at all, but for me, the way that I deal with these things is I just stick to talking about principles. Uh, and, people can think on their own life and, how to apply these. And as we've been talking about, look at their own time, place, and circumstance and uh, things like that. So, yeah, Vaishnav Aparad, like we were saying, a lot of these topics can be uh, big discussions on their own. And I think we're already like 13 minutes over time. So unless there's something super pressing, we can take darshan. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
jai, jai, very well.
I will. Namabakiya Vente Avidya Vinasa Jate Namabakiya Vidya Vinasa Jate. Okay.
Prabhu Paradaya Devamuri Padaya Prabhu Paradaya Devamuri Srila Prabhupada Pandita Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prabhu Guru Hari Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Name Krishna Prabhu Srimad Namaste Saraswati Devi Toramani Kacharine Nirvita Atina Pate Aditari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Guru Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Gaura
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. John the divine grace, basic off on Parvati, this compound in Parvati, John Pala comes to the Kai, the Son of Piximon, Pakistan, and says, what is goes on Parvati, John the Kai, and his son, just the fourth, goodness is going to be getting that day for this is the luck you got it. Tree Raga Krishna go down, Shaman and Narada Gay. Tree Radha and God, my Pradhan Ki Jai, Mani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Nos Perivashwapati Ki Jai, Arnam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Samaveka Ki Jai, Nita Gaur, Nande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the soul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the soul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the soul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all the Sri Bhagavatam. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet in great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating on the lotus mat. Attachment to his lotus feet is affection fulfilled all the knowledge. He openeth my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendent love. He is my Lord, great and victor. From him ecstatic entertainment emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, please be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the free world, so we can shelter the lotus feet. In his divine grace, they see Bhakti, my Parvati,